Written history is physically fragile. Ink fades and parchment decays, meaning the further back we look, the more gaps we find in the record. Before 1947, this vulnerability created a massive problem for historians. The oldest reliable Hebrew manuscripts known to exist only dated back to the Middle Ages, roughly the 10th century AD. This shaded area represents a 1,000-year gap. There was no physical evidence to prove how the text had changed between its original authorship and the copies we possessed. Then, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. These petrified, crumbling documents emerged from the dirt like a time capsule that had been buried for 2 millennia. Finding them was only the first step. Scholars immediately faced a skeptical academic community and had to provide objective proof that these weren't modern forgeries. The authentication of the scrolls rested on 2 independent scientific methods: the study of the ground they were found in and the study of the handwriting used to write them. The investigation begins right here, on the Dead Sea coast. This is a landscape defined by extreme heat and isolation. The scrolls were found hidden inside small caves carved directly into these limestone cliffs, far removed from any major ancient cities. Extracting the texts was only part of the work. Researchers had to meticulously map the ruins of the surrounding area to understand who put them there and why. This extreme geographical isolation is the specific reason the archive survived. It was a location where neither the elements nor humanity would disturb it for 2,000 years. Investigators first used archaeological typology, a method of dating a site by the specific style and evolution of the artifacts found there. They focused on the clay jars that housed the scrolls. These weren't standard household pots. They were custom-built storage vessels. By analyzing the architectural profile of the jars, researchers can establish a clear window of production. This specific ceramic design matches pottery from the Hellenistic and early Roman periods. This puts an upper limit on their date at roughly 70 AD. Some early theories suggested these scrolls were brought from a distant city and dumped in the caves by refugees, but the physical evidence on the ground told a different story. At the nearby ruins of Qumran, archaeologists found specific tools of the trade, like this ancient wooden inkwell. The discovery of 13-meter-long rooms equipped with tables and inkwells indicates that these scrolls weren't just stored here, they were produced here. The ceramic and architectural evidence confirms that an active, professional scribe community lived and worked at this coordinate before the site was destroyed by the Romans. While pottery gives us a general era, it can't provide a precise date for when an individual scribe sat down to copy a text. For that, scholars use paleography, the study of how handwriting styles change over time. Much like fashion or architecture, script evolves predictably. A letter written in the 1700s looks significantly different from a letter written today. Scholars developed a comparative chart tracking changes in Hebrew characters. Isolating aleph reveals how strokes shift across centuries. The mim loop opens or closes depending on the era, acting as a temporal fingerprint. Dr. Albright matched these shapes against established artifacts, like the Nash papyrus. Finding these matches allowed scholars to lock in the dates of the Qumran scripts, placing some of them as far back as the 3rd century BC. This was a massive undertaking of manual labor, requiring researchers to categorize and compare thousands of individual characters by hand. Paleography provided an independent line of evidence that aligned with the pottery data. Together, they proved these texts were copied between the 3rd century BC and 70 AD. The ultimate test for this dating model came when researchers found a bizarre anomaly that didn't fit the pattern of parchment and ink. In Cave 3, they discovered 2 rolls of oxidized copper. Engraving text into copper is a difficult, expensive process. It suggests the information was meant to be permanent and of extreme value. When it was finally decoded, it revealed no prayers or hymns. It was a literal map of hidden treasure. The inventory details instructions for locating approximately 200 tons of gold and silver hidden in various locations across the region. A hoard of this magnitude suggests more than local savings. It points toward the centralized treasury of the temple in Jerusalem, hidden away as Roman legions closed in on the city. This shows Qumran wasn't just a religious retreat, It was a strategic safe house used to protect a nation's wealth during a time of total war. With the scrolls dating, that 1,000-year gap in the historical record was finally filled in. We could now see the state of the text as it existed in the 1st century BC. This was a triumph of the scientific method, allowing researchers to study the foundations of history through physical artifacts. It also addressed a major historical anxiety. Had 1,000 years of manual copying by scribes fundamentally altered the text we have today? By comparing the Qumran texts to the medieval versions from 1,000 years later, researchers found an incredible level of stability. The texts were nearly identical. This stability resolved a long-standing debate. In the 2nd century, the philosopher Justin Martyr claimed that Jewish scribes had intentionally altered the scriptures. The scrolls, which predate that claim, proved the text remained largely unchanged. The discovery proved that ancient scribal practices were incredibly rigorous, preserving complex information across millennia with high fidelity. This sober scientific reality often clashes with sensational media myths that claim the scrolls contain hidden conspiracies or world-ending secrets. The true value of Qumran isn't found in sensationalism. It's found in the raw data it provides about the ancient world. The Dead Sea Scrolls remain a testament to the power of cross-disciplinary science, using broken clay and fading ink to recover 1,000 years of lost history.